What is up, everyone? In this video we will be talking about 3 consoles that you need to be looking for game-wise in 2019. These are 3 consoles that I think you should be looking for and be picking up games for because the games are super cheap right now, and honestly you can't go wrong with games from these consoles. So with each one respectively, I'm going to talk about them a little bit and go into detail a little bit and let you guys know what I think of each one of these consoles. First off, I would like to say I love all 3 of these consoles. They're all great to play on. Doesn't matter what you're talking about, these consoles have great games. So I'm going to start with one that you guys probably know I've been collecting. Xbox original games. Xbox original games are dirt cheap. So a while back I recently was like, hey, I need to find some more games that are disc based from GameStop online, just so I could do a video, but also games that I actually wanted to put in my collection and not spend too much money. I want to say I got about 12 to 15 games and spent about $100. That's a decent deal. Like, I know I could have gotten them cheaper, but it would have been much more time or money spent maybe looking to see where I could get these for cheaper. But I picked them up from GameStop online. Didn't expect much, honestly, just kind of wanted to see what I would get from them. And honestly, I was pleasantly surprised. I want to say 10 out of the 12 were at least boxed, which is a good thing. And honestly, they were pretty cheap. So the first one is the Xbox original. And why do I say that? Because these games are, for some reason, easy to find. Like literally, every time I go to a thrift store or I go to a Goodwill, I find Xbox games marked for $4 or less. Maybe $5 or less. But I find good games there as well. Like, there are some top-notch games that I see for the Xbox original that just would be like $20 on other systems, which blows my mind. But I can see a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 or 3 or 4. I don't know if 2 was on it, but I know 3 and 4 were. Those games, if they were on the Sega Dreamcast, would be $10, $15. But I'll find them for $4, $5. I mean, you can't go wrong. Those are great games, and on other consoles they're much more. So I definitely have to say that the Xbox original is a big treasure trove because people just don't collect for it, I feel like. I've heard of a few people collecting for it, but not to the effect of like a Nintendo 64 collection or anything like that. So that is why I say go with the Xbox original. Now the second one, and these aren't in any order, but the second one is the Wii. If you guys ever go game hunting, you probably find Wii games. I find a Wii Sports almost every time I go out. Now whether or not I pick it up or not, that's a different story because sometimes they're $2, $1, and sometimes they're $10. And so that's why that is a little hard to go by. But the Wii had so many games. Like, there's this thrift store that I go to, I think it's a Salvation Army, and their games are $1. You know what I never find? I never find PS3 games. I never find Xbox 360 games. But what I do find is Wii games. And for $1, I'm like, I remember I bought this game called like The Mighty Mushroom Man or Mushroom Man, something in the title, for $1, and I was like, it's $1, why wouldn't I spend this? And that's why I decided to add the Wii to the list, because there are so many great games on the system. I go back to a few months ago, I was in a pawn shop that I frequent, and I saw that they had Mario Party 8, they had 2 copies of that, they had Mario Kart, and then they had another Mario game. I can't remember if it was like Supercharged or Super Sluggers. It was one of the sports games. But I got all of those for $4 each. You know I'm picking those up. That's a Mario game. But these Wii games are cheap almost everywhere I go. So I definitely think you should be checking out the Wii. Now, I know people are like, oh, I hate the motion controls. But some of those games are perfect because of the motion controls. And I think you should definitely check it out, because there's so many great games on the system. And every time I go places, I see Wii games. And I'm like, I have that one, I have that one, I don't have that one. Oh, it's only $2, I'll pick it up. Even if I don't have it and it's $2, I'll pick it up and just add it to the collection and play it maybe once. And then be like, well, I got my $2 worth of entertainment. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with spending $2 on a Wii game. So, well, I guess you could. There's some games that you just want to stay away from. But what I'm saying is the Wii is out there, and there are so many games for the system. There are so many games that I see when I'm hunting, so that's why I needed to add that to the list, because I think, honestly, the Wii has some awesome games, and people just overlook it because it is the Wii. Like, yes, the Wii came out with Wii Sports, but there's so many great games on the system that I feel like are often overlooked by people. And so, for that reason alone, I needed to add it to this list. But the last console we're going to be talking about today is the PlayStation 3. So, some people have asked me whether they should pick up a PlayStation 3 and just wait for the PlayStation 5 to come out, or pick up the PlayStation 4. And honestly, that's a hard thing to answer for people. However, I always like to say, what kind of games are you into? Because that matters. And the PlayStation 3 was a JRPG machine. And I say machine. Now, I know the graphics aren't as great as the PlayStation 4. But who really cares when you're playing great games? Just because they don't have the best graphics, if they have good graphics, that's enough to make the game good. And so, like, a lot of people, I know, I see these people forgetting about the PlayStation 3 because the PlayStation 4 is the new hot thing. And I say new hot thing, I mean it's a current generation console, but I see cheap PlayStation 3s. Like, I've sold some that I've refurbished for like 30 bucks just because I'm like, get rid of this, get out of the way. That's a cheap console. But the games are just as cheap. You can find good games from $5 to $10, and oftentimes I'll go into a Goodwill or a thrift store and I'll find a few PlayStation 3 games where I won't see many Xbox 360 games, which is kind of interesting about how that went about, because earlier I was talking about Xbox games, but here I'm talking about PlayStation 3 games and how I never see Xbox 360 games. Well, the PlayStation 3 was awesome in its own right. I mean, just let's talk about Uncharted. Like, there are so many great games on the PlayStation 3 that people forget about. Just because maybe they've been remade, or maybe they just weren't big on people's radar. Like, I think back and I'm like, I have an Orange Box over here in the box that I love to play. Like, Orange Box was great for me. I'm trying to think of what else that I have over here that was just a real heavy hitter. I know there's a ton, and honestly, you can find these games for cheap. What I'm gonna do here in the future is hopefully I can do a video over some Wii games that I picked up from GameStop online and PlayStation 3 games in the future. But I want to say, a few days ago I was in GameStop, and the one by me here has a section of Wii games and a section of PlayStation 3 games. And those are both systems that I'm like, wow, these have so many games, but they're so good and they're so cheap. So I definitely had to add that to this list, because all three of these systems here are just marvelous systems and they're great to play. But however, I see people oftentimes just kind of shrugging them off for other things. Like, thinking back to it, the PlayStation 2 is way more hyped than the Xbox is. The Xbox 360 is way more hyped than the PlayStation 3. And the Wii U is on its own because there's nothing really out there that rivaled it. So I feel like these consoles are really consoles that I feel like in the future people are gonna care about. But if they don't, who really cares? If you have an awesome console collection that you can play and have a lot of fun with, that's all that really matters. Like over here I have this little setup. You guys have seen it on channel, on videos of little consoles, and I have my Xbox original over here. I've got a Mountain Dew Xbox over here. I love these consoles. My PS3 is right there. My Wii is right there. I actually think I have two Wiis right here. Yeah, I have two Wiis right here. So, like, these are things that I think people often overlooked because they're not retro games and they're not actually current generation. Like, people say retro games, you think of like the NES, the SNES, the Super Nintendo. Oh wait, the Nintendo 64. I said Super Nintendo twice. Don't roast me for that. But like, those are systems that are old and people grew up with. Like, these systems that we're talking about, for me, I played when I was 15 plus, and so I think you definitely gotta realize that these are consoles that haven't peaked in their retro days yet. So I definitely think this is a time to go and collect for them. And honestly, if you have any other ideas, comment down below. If you have a console that you think fits in well with these, let me know and I will be interested to see, and maybe I'll talk about it in the future. But I wanted you guys to know what my thoughts are about this. So with that being said, I want to say thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell notification because it lets you know when I post a video. But most importantly, make sure you have a good day.